American democracy has existed for over 230 years, meaning that there have been 58 presidential elections in this country's history. Of those 58 elections, the 2020 presidential election was considered the most important election ever. Even now, as the election results are slowly but surely getting certified, we see both major political parties at the ready to say that something in the system is wrong. The problem is, the system is working exactly as it was intended. In America, we advocate for fair and free elections. We are democracy at its finest, but our political system was never meant to be a direct democracy. That's why we're a democratic republic. The current Electoral College was established to give equal power to the states when the president and vice president are being elected. The smaller states during the inception of the Electoral College, such as Maryland and Connecticut, favored the Electoral College as it gave them the same power as the larger, more populous states. The Electoral College is an all-or-nothing system, for the most part anyways. If the majority of the state votes in favor of a candidate, that means every single electoral vote goes to that candidate. Only 2 states allow specific district electoral votes, Nebraska and Maine. Not only is it hard to try and win the Electoral College, but imagine trying to win it when only a few million people actually vote for you. Every election, third-party candidates attempt their hand at being the president. The term third party refers to any party that isn't Democratic or Republican. In reality, there are quite a few political parties that fall into this category. The most well-known in recent years would be the Libertarian Party, which has seen some congressional representation, and the Green Party, which unfortunately has 0 representation. Both parties have had significant traction over the years. Not enough, however, to win the many electoral votes. In 2016, the Green Party had won about 1.5 million votes for the presidency. This was the second most votes the party had won in any other presidential election, with the 2000 election being the first. In 2020, the Green Party candidate Howie Hawkins only won about 390,000 votes. While some people may see the Green Party as a more rebellious Democratic Party, when talking to Green Party voters, that doesn't seem to be the case. I got a chance to talk with Scott Stevenson, a first-time Green Party voter, to see what his thoughts were when making this important decision.
The whole day up until I got into the voting booth, I kept thinking, am I voting for the right person? I felt like kind of guilty, but then when I voted, I felt relieved that I stuck with my values and who I thought should be president.
Right.
But just kind of nervous, and then I was in the voting station and kind of sweaty a little, oh my god, do these people think I'm voting, who do they think I'm voting for?
While voting third party might not always be effective, the voters of these candidates believe that they are still voting for their person and ideals. Instead of having to compromise some of their beliefs, such as environmental regulations, people who vote third party believe that they are still voting for those things, even if the person they voted for didn't get picked.
I read up on the policies of the Green Party, and I just felt more aligned with them, and I felt like they were more progressive than the Democratic nominee. Joe Biden's okay, but I'm not the type of person to spite vote. I voted for my morals and my ethics, and I believe that Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker exemplified my beliefs. And if they would have gotten more steam and been elected, I would have been happy with them being president and vice president.
This, however, gives voters a false impression that they are actually making an impact. The truth is, elections under our current structure will rarely ever be contested by a third party. In order to change the current system, we also need to understand why people choose not to vote. To some, voting in a system that doesn't represent you would be redundant every time. In their eyes, not choosing to vote gives them the opportunity to not be complicit in choosing the leader. But what happens when, come election day, you can't go to your town's local polling place? Should that person be considered un-American because they weren't allowed to vote? I sat down with Deidre Franklin, a registered voter who was unable to vote this election, to get her insight.
Yes, I was rear-ended and found out that I was in the wrong county to vote if I wanted to vote on election day, I had to vote in the county I'm registered in. What I didn't know is that you can vote for general elections in early voting outside of your county. So if I had known that, then there were like 2 or 3 days that I could have gone to vote, but I thought that you could vote general election on election day.
Right.
But you can't.
What alternatives do we have as Americans who want a fair election? Well, we could see the implementation of a ranked choice voting system. A ranked choice voting system would have a list of all the eligible candidates. Voters would then be asked to rank each candidate based on their preference. At the end, we tally the votes for all the candidates, and whoever has more than 50% of the vote would be the winner of that election. In many cases, the first election usually doesn't get a winner, in which we would have runoffs until we finally had a candidate that passes the threshold of a simple majority. Could America stand such a shock to the system? I genuinely like to imagine that we could. When talking to the average American, I imagine that they would want a more palatable voting system. Our country advocates for a direct democracy, but our current system doesn't allow for that. Instead of making every vote count, as we love to say, we only let a few states control the election. Instead of the people having a say in who sits in the highest position, we elect people to do it for us. Ranked choice voting is an easy and direct way for people to get their voices heard. Obviously, changing the voting system during our lifetime will be met with resistance. I think if anything can get people on board, it's actual proof that this can work in our country. And it's going to take states adopting ranked choice voting in their local elections to change the stigma. If the people can prove that it works, then those we elect will be more inclined to change it.